The rain pounded against the windows of Tom Mitchell's small apartment as he stared at the stack of unpaid bills on his kitchen table. His weathered hands trembled slightly as he counted the crumpled 20s in his wallet for the third time that evening. $43. That's all he had left until his next paycheck from the auto repair shop. His 8-year-old daughter, Emma, was asleep in the next room, and he wondered how he'd managed to keep the lights on another month. Tom had been raising Emma alone since his wife, Sarah, passed away from cancer 3 years ago. The medical bills had drained their savings, and despite working 60-hour weeks as a mechanic, he could barely keep their heads above water. The small 2-bedroom apartment in downtown Phoenix was all he could afford, but even that was becoming a struggle. That's when he made a decision that would change everything. He posted an ad on Craigslist offering to rent out their tiny spare room to a college student for $300 a month. It wasn't much, but it might just be enough to help him make ends meet. 2 days later, he heard a soft knock on his door. When he opened it, he found a young woman standing in the hallway, soaked from the rain, clutching a worn duffel bag. Her dark hair was plastered to her face, and her clothes looked like they hadn't been washed in days. But what struck Tom most were her eyes. They held the same exhausted desperation he saw in his own mirror every morning. "My name is Sofia Rodriguez," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I saw your ad about the room. I know I don't look like much right now, but I really need a place to stay." Sofia was 20 years old, a junior at Arizona State University studying engineering. As Tom listened to her story, his heart broke a little more with each word. She had been living in her car for the past 3 weeks after losing her job at a campus coffee shop. Her financial aid had been delayed, and she couldn't afford both rent and tuition. She had been surviving on peanut butter sandwiches and sleeping in the university library until security kicked her out each night. Tom knew he should ask for references, for proof of income, for all the things a responsible landlord would require. But looking at this young woman who reminded him so much of his own daughter, just older and more broken by life circumstances, he couldn't bring himself to turn her away. "You can stay," he said simply. "We'll figure out the rent later." Sofia's eyes filled with tears. She tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she just nodded gratefully as Tom showed her to the small room that would become her sanctuary. Over the following weeks, Sofia became part of their little family. She would help Emma with her homework, while Tom worked late at the shop. In return, Tom never mentioned the rent she couldn't afford to pay. He noticed how Sofia would skip meals to make sure Emma had enough to eat, and how she would quietly do laundry and clean the apartment without being asked. One evening, Tom came home to find Sofia cry at the kitchen table, her laptop open to her university account. Her financial aid had been denied, and without it, she would have to drop out just 6 months before graduating. For years of hard work would be wasted. Her dreams of becoming an engineer shattered. Tom looked at his own bills, at the eviction notice that had arrived that morning, and made another decision that defied all logic. He walked to his bedroom and returned with an envelope containing $800, money he had been saving to fix his truck's transmission. "Here," he said, placing the envelope in front of Sofia. "This should cover your tuition for the semester." Sofia stared at the money in disbelief. "Tom, I can't take this. You need this money. Your truck, your bills." "My truck can wait," Tom replied. "Your education can't. Besides, Emma needs someone to look up to, someone who shows her that dreams are worth fighting for." That night, Sofia made a phone call she had been avoiding for months. She dialed a number she knew by heart, but hadn't used since she left home 2 years ago after a bitter argument with her father about her choice to study engineering instead of joining the family business. The voice that answered was familiar, but distant. "Papa, it's me, Sofia." There was a long pause before her father, Carlos Rodriguez, responded. His voice was cold, formal. "What do you want, Sofia?" Through tears, Sofia told him everything. About living in her car, about Tom and Emma taking her in, about the man who had given her his last $800 so she could finish school. She didn't ask for money or help. She just wanted her father to know that there were still good people in the world, people who believed in her when her own family wouldn't. Carlos listened in silence. When Sofia finished, he simply said he would think about what she had told him, and hung up. 2 weeks passed. Tom's truck finally broke down completely, forcing him to take expensive cab rides to work. The eviction notice had been followed by a final warning. He had given Sofia everything he had, and now he wondered if his act of kindness had doomed his own family. Then, on a Tuesday morning, there was a knock at the door. Tom opened it to find a man in an expensive suit standing in the hallway. He was tall and distinguished, with Sofia's dark eyes and the same determined jawline. "Mr. Mitchell," the man said, extending his hand. "My name is Carlos Rodriguez. I believe you know my daughter." Tom's heart sank. He assumed Sofia's father had come to take her away, to lecture him about interfering in family business. But Carlos surprised him. "My daughter tells me you gave her $800 for school, money you couldn't afford to give." Tom nodded, unsure where this conversation was heading. "She also tells me you never asked for rent, that you fed her when she was hungry, and that you treated her like family when her own family had turned their backs on her." Carlos looked around the small apartment, taking in the second-hand furniture, the overdue bills on the counter, the small but clean space where Tom was raising his daughter alone. "What Sofia didn't tell you," Carlos continued, "is that I own Rodriguez Industries. We're one of the largest construction companies in the Southwest. I'm worth about $2 billion, Mr. Mitchell. And for the past 2 years, I've been too proud and stubborn to help my own daughter because she chose a different path than I wanted for her." Tom stared at the man, trying to process what he was hearing. "You did something I should have done long ago," Carlos said, his voice breaking slightly. "You believed in my daughter when I wouldn't. You showed her kindness when I showed her only disappointment. And now I want to do something for you." Carlos pulled out his phone and made a call. Within an hour, contractors arrived to begin renovating Tom's apartment. By the end of the week, the small space had been transformed into a beautiful home. But that was just the beginning. Carlos offered Tom a job managing the fleet of vehicles for Rodriguez Industries, a position that tripled his salary and provided full health benefits for him and Emma. He also established a scholarship fund in Sofia's name to help other struggling students finish their education. But perhaps most importantly, Carlos reconciled with his daughter. He realized that Sofia's strength, her determination to succeed on her own terms, were qualities he had instilled in her, qualities he should have been proud of instead of fighting against. 6 months later, at Sofia's graduation ceremony, Tom sat in the front row with Emma and Carlos, watching as a young woman they had all come to love walked across the stage to receive her engineering degree. After the ceremony, Sofia approached Tom with tears in her eyes. "You saved my life," she said simply, "not just by giving me a place to stay or money for school. You saved my life by showing me that there are people in this world who believe in kindness without expecting anything in return." Tom hugged her tightly. "You were never a burden, Sofia. You were a blessing. You showed Emma and me that family isn't just about blood. It's about the people who choose to love and support each other." Today, Tom manages a successful auto repair shop that Carlos helped him open. Emma is thriving in a good school, and Sofia works as a structural engineer for Rodriguez Industries. But more than the material changes, what Tom treasures most is the expanded family he gained through one simple act of kindness. This story reminds us that kindness is never wasted. Sometimes the people we help in small ways are struggling with challenges we can't imagine. And sometimes our willingness to sacrifice for others creates ripples of goodness that come back to us in ways we never expected. Tom didn't help Sofia because he hoped for a reward. He helped her because it was the right thing to do. And that pure intention opened the door to blessings beyond his wildest dreams. If this story touched your heart, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to Pure Kindness Stories for more inspiring tales of human compassion. Share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that kindness still exists in our world, and that even the smallest acts of generosity can change lives in the most unexpected ways. Remember, you never know when your kindness might be exactly what someone needs to keep going. Thank you for watching, and keep spreading kindness wherever you go.